Doctor Who news? Why not? Hello, welcome back to my world of stuff. My name is Paul Mount. It's time for episode 4 of my occasional series, News from the Whoniverse. News from the Whoniverse, where I hoover up any recent developments in the world of Doctor Who, merchandise, events, personalities, what people have been up to, any odds and sods that seem to be worthy of some comments. I've done a couple of independent videos over the last couple of months about rumours about the return of Doctor Who, which we know now aren't rumours because the show's coming back next year, and missing episodes and so on. But there are occasionally bits and pieces that I think don't necessarily deserve a whole video, so I'm going to talk about them. It's not so much news in a way because all this is stuff that the Doctor Who fan community will know about, but it's just me sort of rounding them up and talking about them and just offering my own opinion on these developments in the world of our favourite TV Time Lord. Let's kick off then, as I mentioned a moment ago, missing episodes. There's a video further back on the channel, which goes back about 6 weeks, I think, when I was talking about news that an organisation, a now charitable organisation called Film is Fabulous, is working to gather up collections of films from various collectors who had these things hidden away for years and are now managing to obtain these collections. The collectors, unfortunately, many of them are starting to pass away. Families don't know what to do with these things, and they are curating these collections and cataloguing them and passing them back to the copyright owners to give them a digital spruce up with a view to them being broadcast or released somewhere at some point. And that, of course, always brings us to the vexed question of those missing Doctor Who episodes. 97 episodes of Doctor Who still missing from the archives, and Film is Fabulous. A couple of months ago, they released a podcast where they indicated that they know that there's more Doctor Who stuff out there and are working towards getting it sooner rather than later. And I'm mentioning it again in this video because there was an interview from Mark Stuckley from Film is Fabulous in issue 623 of Doctor Who magazine, which came out last week. It's the one with Caroline Ford on the cover. And it's an interesting interview. It doesn't say anything particularly new, but the conclusion that it comes to at the end is that, and I'll quote from the article, "We now have assurances that there are multiple Doctor Who episodes out there," which is interesting because I think many of us who have watched this story develop over the years have thought, yeah, there's probably one or two more, but now there are multiple episodes. That suggests more than two, and I think the indication that Film is Fabulous has given us is that we won't have to wait an incredible length of time to find out what they are and hopefully to see them. So I'm just flagging that up as a bit of a step forward in relation to the long-winded missing episodes story. And I'm also, I think, just asking people to exercise a little bit of caution, because I was a little bit concerned to read that unfortunately a small number of members of the lunatic fringe of Who fandom have been hassling Film is Fabulous, issuing threats, demanding to know what they found and when we'll get a chance to see it. This, again, is that toxic corner of Doctor Who fandom that irritates me so much, that is so entitled and blinkered and suffering from a personal tunnel vision, that it's all about me, I want to know now, I want to know this, I want to have it now. And the fact that death threats have been issued to some of these people, threats of violence to people who are working very hard and very diligently and very carefully and very delicately, because these negotiations are delicate, because we're talking about films that have been squirreled away for decades, have been seen for decades. And whilst I can't understand the mentality of people who have things that they know lots of people would like to see and they hide them away and won't let people see them, it's a strange area of sort of acquisitiveness of people who want to possess things, and this strange superiority. I've got episodes of this that people all over the world want to see, but nobody can see it because I'm never going to release them. And I know I've read things of one or two fans who said they will never release these things. But of course, when they ultimately pass away, their families don't want the clutter. They don't necessarily appreciate this stuff, and they want rid. This is where Film is Fabulous step in. So I would just say to all those lunatic fans out there, for God's sake, grow up. Don't issue death threats to people who are doing something that you will ultimately benefit from, and we will all ultimately benefit from. Of course, we all want to know what episode or episodes are coming back, but we will find out in good time, or when Film is Fabulous are able to do so. They are not able to do so at the moment, but I think they will quite soon, when Doctor Who's 63rd anniversary is coming up in a couple of weeks' time. It might be a bit too soon, and don't take this as gospel. I don't know any more than anybody out there does, apart from the people who are working on this. But it's not beyond the realms of possibility that they're working to make an announcement in time for that anniversary of any episodes that have been found. Might not happen. That day might go past and we'll trundle on into the Doctor Who's 64th year without knowing what's out there. But it does seem interesting that this dialogue has started happening in the last month or so as we head towards the anniversary. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, as I'm sure most of you are, that we'll hear something quite soon about these episodes. And I want to know, because I'm not getting any younger. And if there's any more old Doctor Who out there, I'd quite like to see it before I'm too ancient to appreciate it. No comments, please. As to what might be out there, well, this is always a fun daydream, isn't it? Sitting around thinking, what have they found? What's out there? You know, what's coming? I remember back in 2013 for Doctor Who's 50th anniversary, when we had Web of Fear and Enemy of the World released, and there was a lot of talk that many more episodes were coming. We've had nothing since. So I would say to everybody, exercise a little bit of restraint and caution here, because we might be setting ourselves up for disappointment. But yeah, we do like to play those games of what could possibly be out there. My own personal hopes would be for complete stories. It would be great to see something like the Highlanders or the Savages or the Macra Terror. Late Hartnell, early Pertwee, which aren't incredibly well represented in the archives. Complete stories would be fantastic. Orphan episodes would be fine. It would be nice to see even one episode from one of those missing stories, to give you an idea of what they look like, because we've seen these reconstructions using old telesnaps, and we've seen CGI versions that try to recreate the look of them, but the versions of them that count and matter are the originals. And it would be nice just to get an episode from stories that we don't have any visual representation from. The Massacre, the Mythmakers. Also, it would be quite nice to have stray episodes from nearly complete stories. I'm thinking of that frustratingly missing third episode of Web of Fear. A couple of missing episodes from the 1968 Cyberman story, The Invasion. 10th Planet Part 4, the regeneration of William Hartnell. It would be nice to have those back, just to complete those quite important stories. But anything will do. I don't care if it's episode 5 of the Space Pirates. It's something that we haven't seen before and that's missing. It'd be great to have it back. It does look as if there's more than one, and of course that sets all our minds off into a frenzy of excitement, but temper that excitement. Let's just wait and see what's coming. But I think something is coming, whether it's this month for the anniversary or in the new year, I don't know. But old Doctor Who is coming back. 5 episodes of the Doctor Who spin-off, The War Between the Land and the Sea, are due to arrive quite soon. This was filmed about a year ago. I think it finished filming pretty much 11 months ago. I think it finished filming in December. And it's been sort of sitting there in post-production, and that was all ready to go. It's the last part of the ill-fated co-production deal with Disney, 26 episodes. We have 21 Doctor Who episodes. We've got these 5 episodes. And I'm quite looking forward to them. I've seen the trailer, which was released at the end of the last series. They had a trailer for it. And I think it's going to be quite good. It's going to be quite interesting. I get a bit of a Torchwood vibe to it. It seems to have that feeling to it. So I think it could be quite interesting. And as we know, this is about the Doctor's ancient enemies, the Sea Devils, rising up from the sea to turn the tide of pollution against mankind. It's a prescient sort of story, because we're all aware of those stories about the pollution of the seas and non-degradable plastics and so on that are clogging up the sea, and the damage it's doing to the ecology. So it's an interesting story, and I think if you're going to deal with that sort of story, the Sea Devils are the perfect engine for it, because them and their underground land-based cousins, the Silurians, have always, when they've appeared in Doctor Who, had stories about trying to reclaim the planet that was theirs millions of years ago. And I think it's an interesting idea now that Sea Devils have awoken and found that their seas are being choked by human crap, and they want to wage war against the human race. Russell T Davies, however, in bigging up the series, he has issued comments which I think I reacted to in a certain way and quickly thought, hang on, he's right really, isn't he? he said, with a twinkle in his eye, he said to Radio Times, "It's racist to say sea devils. In the context of the show, the sea-dwelling race prefer to be called Homo aqua, and don't call them monsters. Arguably, it's we the humans who are the villains of the piece. After years of humankind polluting the oceans, Homo aqua have had enough, with violence brewing unless human negotiator Barclay, played by Russell Tovey, and aquatic ambassador Salt, played by Gugu Mbatha Raw, can broker peace." Davis went on to say, "I think every writer in the world is thinking, how do you write about the climate crisis? We're already in a climate war. This just dramatises it. When they first approached me about coming back to Doctor Who in 2021, this was the first bit of my pitch. I had this idea separately first. But weirdly, it needs the Doctor Who setting. If I just go and pitch this cold saying there was a race of creatures that live in the sea, they'd say, really? You sure? The pre-existence of sea devils takes all the problems out of it. I think the thing that caused a bit of a flap amongst the fan community and the confused fans and so on was when he said it's racist to call them sea devils. And I did roll my eyes at first. I thought, oh, it's Davros all over again when he recreated Davros and said it was ableist or anti-ableist to have Davros in a wheelchair. And he wouldn't be seen in a wheelchair anymore. He's going to be able-bodied. But I think, whilst that was just a bit silly, I think, this makes sense because the Sea Devils, we know them as the Sea Devils from the show from 1972's John Pertwee story, the Sea Devils, but they were called that by a member of the public, a man who's working on renovating the abandoned sea fort that part of the action takes place in the first couple of episodes. He saw one of these creatures and he called it a sea devil, a sea devil. And I don't know if the name's used all that much, even in the Sea Devils. I know it was used in Warriors of the Deep when the Silurians awoke the Sea Devils and called them Sea Devils. And you think, well, why would they call them Sea Devils? So I think in the context of Doctor Who's narrative, I think it's quite right that they are not Sea Devils. They don't call themselves Sea Devils. They don't consider themselves Sea Devils. That's a name given them by the human race. And I seem to recall even when they returned in that not very good Jodie Whittaker special, The Legends of the Sea Devil, the Doctor called them Sea Devil, and one of the Sea Devils called her a land parasite. And I think that's an interesting spin on it. They are only Sea Devils to us, not to themselves. They would have a name for their species, and I think, I don't know about Homo aqua, because that suggests a connection to humanity, and these are supposed to be reptile creatures that existed before man. But I think Homo aqua is probably a better name than Sea Devil. So having been initially, oh, Russell, you've done it again, I think it makes a lot of sense that they're not called Sea Devils. I dare say there'll be a little sly mention of the name somewhere in the script just to make that connection with the originals obvious. And there have been a couple of new photographs issued. We have Gugu Mbatha Raw's character Salt. She is a sort of humanized, I'm trying not to call her Sea Devil. She's a humanized Homo aqua in that she's recognizably Gugu Mbatha Raw in blue makeup with gills and so on. But we do see other Homo aqua, the warriors, who look quite nice and look quite threatening, more in the style of the original Sea Devils from 1972. I think we're going to have a similar thing that we had when the Silurians came back in Stephen Moffat's era, when they were human actors with scales all over them, to give the actor the chance to perform. And I can understand that because I think the original Silurians and Sea Devils were very much hampered. Although they were great designs, they were hampered by the fact that you couldn't get any physicality or emotional responses in the actors because they had masks over their heads. So you'd have mouths moving, but you couldn't have any, movement otherwise. So I could see why a redesign was done, but I think this looks a bit more sympathetic, perhaps, to the original Sea Devils than those Silurians were to the Silurians. So that's coming up next month. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be actually a lot better than people think. A lot of the usual toxic crowd are going, oh, it's crap, we're not interested in this, no one cares about that. I think it's going to be fun. Whether it's going to be a big hit TV show, I don't know. It's the last gasp of the Disney deal. But I think if it can go out on a high, that'll be sort of a thumbs up for everybody. So don't call them Sea Devils. I think most fans of classic Doctor Who will agree that Tom Baker sort of embodies Doctor Who in the 1970s. And for many people, he is their favourite Doctor Who, the most memorable Doctor Who. I think it's partly to do with the look, the curly hair, the bohemian clothes, the big long scarf wrapped around his neck. That, for so many people, is the image of Doctor Who. And even now, when the show is mentioned in the media and by comedians and so on, the reference is very often jelly babies and scarves. Tom Baker's look of the Doctor, his silhouette as the Doctor, his image, his portrayal, is very much an archetype, if not a stereotype, for what people think that the Doctor is, despite everything we've had in the 21st century and all the earlier stuff. Tom Baker, for many, is and always will be Doctor Who, and I understand that. I think Tom was absolutely brilliant. I've said it before, and I won't keep banging on about it. His first 3 years, his performance was astonishing. It drifted into comedy and slapstick after that, but Tom, through all of it, he was, this great burning beacon of energy and imagination, and he just encapsulated the Doctor for so many people. And he's finally been recognised quite properly. It was announced, I think, beginning of the year that he was going to get an MBE for his services to entertainment, and that MBE was finally awarded to him this week in quite a low-key ceremony. I think certainly for knighthoods and so on, those sorts of awards, people go to Buck House to get awarded personally by the King. Tom is approaching 92, I think 92 next birthday, and whilst he looks quite well for a man of his age, I think from the photographs that have been released that the ceremony was done either in his home or close to his home. And there are a couple of really nice photographs that were released of Tom, looking frail and thinner than we sort of remember him, but receiving his award with, I imagine, a modicum of pride. I don't know what his position is as a royalist and how he feels about all this sort of stuff. But there's some lovely pictures of him, a couple of really nice pictures of him, particularly one with Louise Jameson, his co-star, through the tail end of season 14 and season 15, playing the savage Leela of the Seventeen. And it's nice to see them together because famously there was some friction when she joined the show back in the 70s because Liz Sladen had left. Tom had a fantastic working relationship with Liz and missed her and resented a newcomer joining the show. And Louise has often spoken about how difficult Tom could be to work with and how he sort of froze her out a little bit. But I think they eventually warmed to one another. And of course, as the years have rolled by now, they're working on Big Finish and have attended events together. And you can see from the photograph of the two of them together at the awards presentation that they are close friends now. She's looking up at him, almost sort of worshipping him, as we all should really, because he's Tom Baker. It is fantastic to see him getting this award. He should get a knighthood, really. We all know that. He should be Sir Tom of Baker. But an MBE is a nice recognition for the work he's done over the years. We think of Doctor Who mainly, but he did so many other things. He's had so many different areas of his career. Still playing Doctor Who for Big Finish now. And I think as Doctor Who fans, we're all sort of dreading the day when we hear the news that we've lost him. But let's hope that's not coming for a while yet, because for me as well, it's an anchor back to the 70s, different times. And seeing Tom still around just gives you that link back to your childhood. So congratulations to Tom Baker, MBE. And finally, a bit of news about some Doctor Who guff that some of you might be interested in. I am not a fan of the Stephen Moffat era of Doctor Who. I think that's very well established by now. And I wasn't a big fan of the characters of Amy Pond and her boyfriend Rory Williams, played by Karen Gillan and Arthur Darvill. I just found the characters a bit irritating. I'm not going to go through all that stuff again. I don't find the writing of that era particularly accomplished or interesting. But there's no doubt that those characters were hugely popular, and they certainly carried Doctor Who after the Russell T Davies era into new popularity in America. The popularity did tail off as the series became less interesting, I suppose, in season 7. But they are hugely popular and beloved, and people really like those characters, and that's great. It's always good when anybody likes characters. And they've both gone on to have fairly successful careers, or very successful in Karen's case. She is established in Hollywood. She's done the Marvel films where she played Nebula in the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers films. And she pops up in lots of different films. She's most recently in a film called The Life of Chuck, which I absolutely loved. I just received my 4K disc of that from Amazon this week. A really good, very clever, thoughtful film about life and the passing of time. So she's very popular. She does lots of things. She's just started filming the new Jumanji film. Arthur Darvill too hasn't reached those heights, but he's done a lot of stuff. He's appeared in lots of TV shows. He was in Broadchurch, pops up here and there in different things in supporting roles. So he's got a decent career. Anyway, they are back together. They're reuniting for an exciting new project that will see them, the Ponds, return to look back on their time on the BBC Sci-Fi show. Gillan and Darvill famously played husband and wife Amy Pond and Rory Williams, joining the show for season 5 in 2010. The pair exited the show after 2.5 seasons and are now set to reunite for a new podcast entitled The Pondcast, in which they will reminisce about their time on Doctor Who. They confirmed the news in an interview with Radio Times, and Arthur Darvill, said that the Whoniverse themed podcast will see the pair rewatch and reflect on their old episodes from the beloved BBC Sci-Fi. We had such a good time on Doctor Who, he explained. It was so long ago and we've forgotten so much that happened, but it was such a formative thing that we feel now that we're able to look back and celebrate it. Detailing what fans can expect from the upcoming podcast, Darvill continued, I've not seen half of it, so we're going to rewatch it and talk about it. We've recorded a few episodes already. It's really fun. It's just me and Karen messing around, so I'm not quite sure how many new facts you'll get, but it's really nice to kind of go back and reminisce about it. So there we are. The Pondcast doesn't have an official launch date yet. However, recording has already begun, with former showrunner Stephen Moffat, hurrah, appearing as a guest in one episode. Well, there we are. Knock yourselves out if that's your cup of tea. If you are fans of those two particular characters and that era Doctor Who, this is going to be a joy for you, I would imagine. It's going to be something to bring back memories and for you to revel in and recreate an era Doctor Who that you love, and that's great. I think that's fantastic. So that will be coming up quite soon, I imagine. So yeah, if that's your bag in Doctor Who, it's coming soon. Right, thank you for watching this video. It's just a little potpourri of Doctor Who bits and pieces. I try not to deal in the rumour stuff. You will see all the other YouTubers, well, many of the other Doctor Who YouTubers, the confused ones, video day after day after day. Rumour of this casting, rumour of that casting, rumour of this story. They're rumours. I'm not interested in rumours. I don't deal in rumours. A lot of that is crap. A lot of that is clickbait. So I just want to talk about things that are happening, things that are factual. I know the missing episodes thing is up in the air, nebulous, but we know that something is happening there. So that's the sort of stuff that this random series, and I don't know how often these episodes are going to come out. This is the 4th one. It'll just be when there are a few things that I want to talk about in the world of Doctor Who. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. You can do that by clicking there or clicking that with your phone, that QR code, to join the fun in my world of stuff. I'll see you soon. Coming up very soon, we'll have a full review of the new Blake 7 box set. I'm still working my way through that. That should be coming up on the weekend. And finally, my review of the 1965 sci-fi series Undermined. When I say finally, I don't mean the last video on this channel. I mean, I'm finally getting around to doing it. Undermined, that's coming up in the next few days as well. So loads of stuff to come. So just stick around. I'll see you soon. Until I do, keep taking this stuff.